So I gotta tell you something that was like really, really scary that happened over the weekend. I got stopped by the Dominican police. First of all, we were supposed to go to the beach. That's the whole thing. We were supposed to go to the beach. That's the whole thing. We were supposed to go to the beach. My boyfriend basically said, that day, like, hey, we're gonna go to the beach. We're gonna go to my cousin's house. We're gonna cook some food. I'm gonna get my hair cut because the barber shop is like literally next door. And so he's like, I'm gonna get my hair cut. We're gonna cut some food, cook some food, and then we're all gonna go to the beach. And I'm like, yes. San Rafael Beach is like my favorite beach, right? And so I'm excited. And this is we probably got over there and went and got the food and stuff at like 11 o'clock, right? So 12 o'clock comes, 1 o'clock comes, 2 o'clock comes, and I am like, what in the world? So he's, hanging out with his family, talking to his friends. They're all speaking Spanish, which I speak a little, but not enough to like understand what everybody is saying, things like that. So he's back and forth between, his cousin's house, the barber shop. I'm like sitting outside underneath a tree, right? Trying to stay cool and getting back and forth into the air conditioning in the car. And I'm like, when are you getting your hair cut? Like, seriously, like I'm seeing other people getting their hair cut. First, he had to wait for the barber to show up, Then, oh, his cousin's going to cut his hair and his cousin's cooking the food. So it was just like a bunch of just like nonsense. So hours and hours and hours of waiting, okay? There's regular time, CP time, and there is Caribbean time, okay? And they were on some serious Caribbean time. So I'm telling you all this to figure so you can understand why I was driving. And so then I looked up, and so I'm kind of back and forth, you know, in the barbershop. They're talking, doing what dudes do in the barbershop, which is not cutting hair, by the way. They're listening to loud music. They got to change the station or change the music every 5 minutes. At one point, the barber got up to go do something, and I was like, okay, maybe he's getting some products, something, so we can go ahead and get this thing done. He comes back with beer because clearly you can't cut hair without drinking beer at the same time. What in the world? I'm just kind of, and this is on Monday, y'all. This is a Monday. So I'm like, what in the world? I need something to do. I cannot just be sitting here for hours while you talk to your friends and pretend to get your hair cut because ain't no haircutting going on. And so he's like, okay. And I was like, look, the car is on E, okay? And let me just let you know, he's one of those men who will drive around on E, and I'm like, my heart is beating fast. Like, we're gonna break down at any second now. And he's like, relax, tranquilo. What are you talking about? So I was like, listen, let me go get some gas. I'll go put some gas in the car. That way, when the food gets ready, don't know why it took 5 hours for this food to get ready, but anyway, when the food gets ready, you got your haircut, we can just get in the car and go, because the beach was like 45 minutes an hour away. And by this time it was like 4 o'clock. And I'm like, why are we just sitting here? And he was like, yeah. So he was like, yeah, go back to and I had just planned to get my feet wet at first. And then it was like, because it was so hot, I was like, I think I actually am going to go in the water, So he's like, yeah, go to the hotel, get your bathing suit, gas up the car, come back. I promise you by the time I'm done, you're done, I'm going to have my hair cut. I'm like, all right, bet, let's do this. And so the hotel was like 10 minutes away from where we were. And we had been back and forth enough times where I was just like, I know where I'm going. Like, yeah, I can kind of feel it. Like, I'm one of those people where I can kind of remember where I've been or whatever. And so I was like, I think I got this. And I'll call you if I get lost or anything. But it's only 10 minutes away, and I think it's a pretty straight shot. And he was like, yeah, just keep doing this, which is making rights, right? Now, later, he goes, no, that means go straight. Like, whatever. So he gives me directions, and I start driving in the car. And my first thing is we got to get some gas because I don't want to be stuck out here. Car breaks down. We ain't got no gas. And I speak broken Spanish, not full Spanish. So I'm looking. I spot somebody. I go to like one of the gas stations. They have kind of two kind of gas stations here in the Dominican Republic. And one works for certain ones work for certain cars. And I pulled up and then I realized I was like, oh, this is not the right kind of gas station. I need like a Texaco. And so I asked the guy and I'm like, donde está gasolina? And so he's like, oh, yeah, straight up the street, just keep going that way. I'm like, cool. So I get to the gas station. Guy starts pumping my gas. Everything is cool. One great thing about the Dominican Republic, if you guys are ever thinking about moving here, one of the things I love is that every gas station, everything is full service. Like, so you never ever pump your own gas. Hallelujah. So the guy's pumping my gas, and so I asked him, I'm like, "Donde está Hotelria?" You know, because that's where we're staying. And I'm again, it was like 10 minutes away from where we originally were. So I'm like, it has to be close. I just have to make sure I'm on the right road. And so he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, like keep going that way." And I'm like, "Cool." So I get there, I'm driving, and everything is good. And I'm looking, I'm like, "Well, this doesn't like this stuff looks familiar, like I've seen it, but I don't feel like I'm going back to the hotel." And as I'm getting closer to like not a stoplight, but just kind of like an intersection, I see signs that say like Santo Domingo this way, or you know, this city this way. And I'm like, "Oh crap." And then I see the big Barahona sign that's at the entrance of the city. And I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm leaving the city." I'm like, "Crap, I'm going the wrong direction." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to turn around." And as I'm getting closer to the intersection, I realize I'm like, "Oh crap, the cops are up there." And I'm like, "Oh," and my heart sinks. Now, again, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I am a black American. And I'm telling you, y'all, there's something psychological about it. Every time I see the cops, it's like you tense up, like your heart drops because you think something bad is going to happen. Or you know you about to get a ticket because they're not gonna let you up. But again, I'm driving safely. I'm not doing anything wrong. Now, granted, also this is an area where you have people riding mopeds and they got babies in their arms. Okay, so I'm literally doing nothing that could be considered to be wrong. And so I'm coming up on the intersection. I'm like, I'm leaving the city. It's literally like the intersection where it takes you into the town, the city. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to make a left up here and I'm going to go down that road and I'm just going to find a place to turn around, which I did. And as I'm coming back to the intersection to make a right to go back into Barahona, the cops signal me to pull over. And I'm like, crap. And so the cops here, it's not like they do drive around, but for the most part, if you're going to see cops, they have like these checkpoints where, you know, they're just standing there. And then every now and then, for whatever reason, they'll stop certain cars and just say, like, pull over, you know. So that's kind of the deal. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, well, hopefully everything will be okay. You know, I didn't do anything wrong. So, but immediately, for me, I'm gonna be honest, it felt very much like, oh, like when they saw the car turn and then they saw me come back a few minutes later, to me, it was an immediate like, oh, that person's not from around here. Stop her. I felt like I was a little bit targeted, not even gonna lie. So anyway, so they, you know, pull me over. So immediately I, you know, alert them, you know, that I speak very little English, but you know, I'm happy to do whatever they need me to do, you know. And so, you know, I give them my driver's license, like my American driver's license, show that I, you know, I'm legal to drive. And so they start asking me basically for documents, you know, and I'm like, oh, crap, because this is a rental car, and in the DR, it ain't always like the US. Like you're not renting from like budget, you know. Usually, it's like anyway, it's a whole nother experience. It's almost like somebody just gave you their car and you paid them to rent it, whatever. His brother rented the car. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, first of all, I got to figure out how to get into the glove compartment because it's locked, you know? And so I'm trying to explain, like, you know, trying to explain, like, what's happening in my broken English, you know? I mean, in my broken Spanish. And I can't, and basically, you know, like, I understand enough to understand that they're asking me for the insurance papers. Of course, I cannot find the insurance papers. I'm looking all through the glove compartment, can't find it. Side note, my boyfriend had them. Why would you not leave them in the car? Like, why would you have them with you? But that's a whole nother thing. So I can't, you know, whatever. And then they're talking to me. And of course, you know, they're talking to me the way police officers talk to people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I can't understand a lot of what they're saying. And so I'm like, you know, un momento, you know, I basically asked them for permission. Can I call my boyfriend so that he can translate? And so they, you know, I'm pulling out my phone. I'm like, telefone di novio, you know, so he, you know, he he speaks Spanish basically. And so get the boyfriend on the phone. He's like, where you at? And so he starts talking to the cops. Whatever. I can't understand anything that's happening. And then all of I see is, she hands me the phone back and she starts writing a ticket. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like now I'm just like upset because I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I think that was the biggest thing. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong. So why am I getting a ticket, in another country, and like, and let me tell you something, I've had some tickets in my life. I'm talking $900, $400. Like I have never had a ticket experience where it's been good, plus we don't live here, so I can't. It's not like I can fight it. Then I don't speak Spanish, and then again, I don't know what she's writing me a ticket for, because she might have been writing me a ticket to say like you're not even supposed to be driving in this country, which again, I will admit to, I probably should not have been driving, but I honestly didn't think it was that big of a deal, and I drive safer than everybody I've met here. Anywho, so she writes me the ticket and then basically does this, like go, get it, So I'm really in my feelings right now, I'm nervous, scared. I hate when I can't understand somebody and they can't understand me as far as the speaking. I'm working on my Spanish, but it's just not good enough yet. And usually my boyfriend is with me if we're out and about. And so, so I drive up a little bit and then I can pull off onto the side of the road, and, I could feel like the tears coming, and I'm like, well, let me just get myself together. So I'm literally about to call my boyfriend to basically be like, look, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. And now I'm upset about this whole ticket situation. And so as I'm like literally typing into the phone to him, all of a sudden he appears at the side of the car. So his brother had brought him. So I guess he had asked the cop, like, where is she? What's going on? That kind of thing. And so he came to my rescue. It was like the perfect moment because I literally was like tearing up and I was about to cry. And so, of course, as soon as I see him, then I actually do start crying, And so he's like, why are you crying? Just like, because I'm in another country. And I got stopped by the cops. And then he does the man thing. Okay, men, please stop being rude. So he does the man thing. He's like, why are you even over here? Do you see a beach? The hotel's in front of the beach. Why would you drive this direction? And I'm like, now is not the time for that. So anyway, but so now I'm crying, and so I guess this makes him upset. So then he goes back. So we drive back. He goes back and talks to the officer, and he's like all like, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, whatever. And so in the end, it ended up being like a $25 ticket. So I was like, okay. So they gave me a ticket basically for driving without insurance, which he showed them the insurance, but they basically had the attitude of, well, the ticket's already wrote we already wrote the ticket, and she couldn't produce the documents that we needed. And he said, the lady said, I can't understand her. She can't understand me. So I'm not dealing with that, basically, was the situation. Um, and so, yeah, so I got a $25 ticket. So, again, not a big deal, but I honestly thought it was going to be like $300-$400 or something. So that's why I was like really upset. So in the end, it ended up being okay. Like, again, my boyfriend's brother, dropped him off so he could talk to the cops and all that kind of stuff. And he ended up driving us back to the hotel, and I was way off. Like, I don't know how I got so far away from the hotel. Oh my gosh. Like, it took us like 20-25 minutes to get back to the hotel. So I literally drove in the wrong direction. But he kind of saved the day, and it all worked out and everything. But I will say this. So the reason why I wanted to mention that is because I know a lot of times it's very easy to say, and I will admit, if you go to another country, you have to learn the language. You do, but I will say that it is very tough being on the opposite side of that, because I know a lot of times people like, especially in the U.S., they need to learn English. They need to learn English. It is very difficult to learn a different language, number one, and number two, also just having empathy. You know what I mean? Like, I think for me, I think that was the big thing with the cops. Like, it was just almost like they had no empathy. And I know a lot of times that happens in the U.S. where they're just kind of like, well, whatever, because I was definitely trying to work with them as much as possible, even saying, like, hey, can I call my boyfriend so that he can translate for us so that I understand completely what you're saying. So I think the more and more I have experiences here, it just, as a person, it makes me care more about other people. It makes me um, understand like the experiences of other people and how scary that is when somebody, when especially when it's the law and somebody's writing you a ticket and you don't know what they're even writing a ticket for because you don't know what you did wrong, and there's no one to really explain it to you. Um, and the mentality is just whatever, it's not my problem. So anyway, that was my experience. So it was, again, very scary, but I was so grateful that my boyfriend was there. He kind of helped me through the whole situation, and in the end, like I said, it was fine. It was $25, but